in the class because the connection kept on dropping off. So you will need to go and recover some of those notes. If there is a major thing, you can always have a chat with me. But what I would say is focus on the material in your textbooks and the material in the notes that you have that really and truly are pertinent to your assignment, because your assignment gives you a good overview of what the kind of thing is. You know, it's real world problems you're going to have to face when you go into industry. And I'm trying to make you guys industry ready. Some of you really are, because you're really working part-time, or, you know, you're not fresh out of school. But so if you have any concerns, let me know. I really and truly am here to help. Okay, so, all right, so I'm not going to cover this again, but just to let you know that what we covered in section 2 or lesson 2 was we looked into exactly what media management was. So we looked at understanding media management, media economics, political economy approaches in the context of media management, and then media studies. And I think the most important slide and the most important thing from lesson 2 last week was the whole idea of integration in the context of integrated marketing communications. So when we integrate our media, we also look at it in the context of integrated marketing communications. So we shouldn't just integrate the media, we should also integrate the various types of media and all of our marketing communications and all of our marketing and all of our branding. Much easier said than done, quite difficult to do, but that is the context in which, you know, I'm trying to teach you guys about integrated management. Okay, so what we then were discussing last week, and I'm going to forward wind into the lessons because we did the first section on Kung, and we're going to focus on use. What we were discussing last week, and then we ran out of time, was we were looking at mass media and communication, which we're going to continue to discuss, because obviously the whole thing is about mass media, the whole thing is about communication. But this lesson is a continuation of the previous session. We will keep on delving into the world of media management and seek to understand that there are factors that can affect strategy in the media industry. We define the media industry and discuss the characteristics of mass communication or mass media, and we have an understanding of the context of managing media work and the fact that media management operates on different levels, macro, meso, and micro levels. Okay, so I'm going to skip past this because we did this all last week, and then I'm just going to continue where we were. So Onelena, you will remember this because you were able to stay because you're connected better. You know, sorry guys for the other students. I'm so sorry about the connection. You know, it's such a pain. I hope mine lasts because I've still got lectures until 10 o'clock tonight. So I hope mine lasts. But anyway, okay. So Hughes then is now speaking specifically also about, you know, and guys, I think what's important here for you to remember is we're trying to compare and contrast new media versus old media. And why are we doing that? Remember, academia almost follows on from stuff in the industry. Sometimes academia is at the forefront and comes up with new theories, then go into the mainstream. But usually, if you think back to our forefathers and their forefathers, it was a trial and error thing. We saw what worked, we saw what didn't, and then we went and wrote about it and documented it. That became the basis of study, of learning. Okay, so the reason why we're studying this stuff is because we know that TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and, you know, all the other stuff, even WhatsApp, those are all threats to the SABC 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, threats to DSTV. I mean, I remember I had a conversation with a guy. I was at a doctor's year-end function. I was actually the MC at the function. And after we finished speaking and doing one thing, I sat down to have dinner, and this guy who was the sound engineer, because using sound engineer was I was doing my entertaining and stuff. He, you know, he works for DSTV, and I sat him down and said to him, "But Peter, can you please tell me why it is that DSTV doesn't allow you to choose your 10 channels? Why can't I choose my 10 top channels as like a bouquet of things instead of them forcing, you know, these channels on me, which I don't necessarily want?" And he said, "Rob, it's a really good question. We've mentioned to them, and they're very hard-headed." So now, personally, for me, we don't have a TV anymore, not even a smart TV. If I want to watch anything, I'll watch Al Jazeera on YouTube, because I quite like Al Jazeera, or BBC, whatever it is, to catch up on news. I'll watch Showmax and Netflix. I'll serve tons of content on YouTube Shorts. I'm not a huge fan of TikTok. I find the content can be a little bit overwhelming. Maybe it's because I'm older, but I don't really like TikTok. But I love YouTube and I love YouTube Shorts, lots of stuff. And that's how I consume my media. But the old media people know that people do not. And I haven't listened to a commercial radio station in forever. I don't listen to, 947 or Jacaranda or East Coast Radio or whatever they've got in the Western Cape. I don't listen to 5FM or Metro or Y or whatever it is. I haven't in ages. So whatever is being spoken about on there is totally lost on me. And you may be the same. So media managers, knowing that some audiences are no longer reachable on traditional media, have said, how are we going to still connect with those people using soft social media, the lower end, in inverted commas, stuff. Also because people can't afford, a massive campaign. They can't afford, huge campaigns. Okay, so the context of managing media work, you can see Hugh speaks about a general shift in power away from professional content to creators, to users, professional content creators, to users and owners. Now, this is something I spoke about in the lectures last week. Some of you guys may remember this. We spoke about outside in versus inside out. So in the past, you were the control of the brand, your promotion or your communication went from from inside to out. So you spoke about it and then you proclaimed it to people. These days, people on the outside are telling you about your brand, and the communication is going from the outside back in. So they're dictating your brand to you. And the example that we looked at was Lyft. Lyft is an airline. The name was come up with by 25,000 people. They had a competition. Jonathan Ayash and Gidon Novik, who used to be the MD of Kulula. I must tell you, this is terribly boring, but anyway, this is quite fun. There was this chappie that I used to know who he used to do Christmas decorations for us because I used to work in the shopping center industry, and he was a very nice chap, but quite an old chap. He's old enough to play Father Christmas, and he always used to say, "Oh yeah, I'm going down to go visit my family. I'm using Kalua. So I'm going down to Kalua." I'm like, "Okay, cool. What's Kalua?" So I always joke and call it Kalua, but I know, of course, it's Kalula, which I know is Zulula for easy, as far as I understand. But anyway, so what I wanted to say to you guys is, you have to be able to see that in the case of like Lyft, the name of the airline came about because potential users of the airline came up with a name, and that was because the two guys who started the company said, let's serve the public. So automatically, what do? You create buy-in from potential users, and you also create a great publicity point because you can go and release a press release and say this is a name that came up with by South Africans, okay, by the public, and it's immediately newsworthy. So it's actually very, very, very clever. Okay, then they also got lambasted because when they launched their flight from Joburg to Durban, they landed at King Shaka and they were spraying the aircraft with a water salute, which is what you usually do when new aircraft routes start into the airport. And they were lambasted by locals saying, "Why are you wasting water when we just had a flood and we don't have water?" And then Lyft responded and said, "Oh, but by the way, guys, we used grey water. We didn't just use water, we used grey water. So, it was recycled water." But they had to respond. In the past, if they had placed an advert on TV and said, "Welcome to Durban King Shaka International Airport," and you can see the airline arrive with the water gun salute, okay, and you would look at the message. First of all, you would not necessarily have cared that they were wasting water because 50 years ago, it wasn't that big an issue. Now it is. Or maybe you did care 50 years ago and you said, "I'm furious with Lyft. I need to write to them." And you would need to go and find out, phone somebody and send a letter via snail mail to actually communicate. It was much more difficult to communicate with them in the past. That is the value of the communications model, is that we have direct, instantaneous feedback. There's still noise in the channel, as you remember from the communications model, but there's direct, instantaneous feedback. So nowadays we have people who are creating content, and I specifically mentioned last week as well, there was a guy, another airline example. I love flying and I love airplanes, so I'll be talking about that quite a lot. But anyway, another guy who boarded a United Airlines flight in the United States, and he actually saw the workers throwing his guitar onto the conveyor belt and going into the storage area underneath the plane, and he saw them break his guitar. So he actually contacted United and complained and said, listen, you broke my guitar. And United didn't care. They're like, oh, well, so whatever. So he wrote a song about it and placed it on YouTube called United Breaks Guitars. The whole thing went viral. And then he finally got United to sit down and say, oh, sir, we're very sorry. Here's a refund for your guitar. Here's a refund for your flight. And here's a free flight, etc., etc., etc. So the shift in the media from those who create content to those who consume and also create content. I'm sure a lot of you guys, and Dennis is involved in the music industry, a lot of you guys will be creating content. You know, so I don't know all that much about all of you guys. I know Onalena is looking at possibly, you know, getting further into sociology as a field of study. So you can see the effects on all of this in terms of PESEL. Okay, so I'd love to get to know you guys a bit better as well. But guys, more focus is now placed on user-generated content and consumer engagement. Media professionals can sometimes become alienated, and there's a constant struggle for work and the loss of a direct sense of creative autonomy. Okay, so guys, that can happen. That is why you need to be able to go. And if you look at job applications, if you go into PNet, whatever it is, okay, I'm going to have a look, they will say content creator also needs to be able to edit video or needs to be able to create video. Okay, so unless you're able, you can create the content, you may be able to write a script, you might be able to, but if you can't edit video, they won't give you the job. Or for example, you're going to have a look at a UX, DX, user experience or the design experience that needs to be included, etc., etc. Okay, so there's been a huge knock-on in terms of the way we function in the media industry and in the industry in general. Okay, so managing media work, guys, must be seen within a larger context of the social architecture, which it forms part of. So we can see the content is important, the processes behind which we create the content, the people involved, the technology, and all the other variables. Okay, and you can see in terms of your organizational life, the beliefs, the values, the emotions, all of these have an influence on the planning and the behavior. Okay, so we're going to obviously discuss details, and you can even see, take this back to your assignment, okay, and ask yourself the question, or let me see, somebody saying something. Let me see. Oh, this is nice, really, oh, hang on. This is the transcript. Let me go back to this is the transcript. Somebody have a question. Let me see. Turn the transcript off. And there is a hand. Let me see. Content. Let me see over here. Somebody leave a message. No. I know. Somebody dropped off. Maybe somebody dropped off. I'm not sure. I don't see a message. Okay. People. New activity person. Okay. What's happening? I'm confused. Why does it say people? Okay. Anyway, okay, guys, I'll be checking for messages perennially. Oh, Techofatso was waiting to join the meeting. See? Sorry. Techofatso, I hope you didn't have to. Techofatso, I hope you didn't have to wait for long. Sorry about that. I just heard the blimp go off, and so I've let you back into the meeting because I think your connection died. Sorry about that. Okay. Cool. All right. So, guys, if you have a look, for example, at excuse me, excuse me, the ANC. Okay, what kind of content? What are the processes that need to go through in order to create the content? Who are the people you need to connect with? What technology? What technology are you going to need? Are you going to be using in order to achieve the outcomes of being able to connect with the right audiences? Okay, and that's entirely up to you. You need to advise me on whether or not you think, and you know, guys, go look at some Stats SA if you want. You could even do that and say, listen, Rob, Africa, I know that the average age of a person living in Africa is 19. Okay, it's the youngest of all the continents. The oldest is Europe at 42. I guess Europe is old money, older people, etc. Okay, Africa's 19, but there are probably loads and loads of people under 19. And the cell phone penetration rate in Africa, the last time I checked, was 108%. In other words, 108% of people in Africa have cell phones. Okay, so you might be saying it's really important to connect with, you know, I think it's also very dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of negative stuff that does the rounds. And remember, that's very funny. People share stuff that they think is funny, that's entertaining, that's poignant, you know, about load shedding or whatever it is, and that kind of thing. So you have to be aware of that and all the other variables. And then the beliefs, the values, the emotions, both in terms of the organization and in terms of the person who's receiving the message. Okay, and maybe you would advise, and in real life, I'm not going to say, well, I don't think that's going to work. If you were hired by the ANC to do something for their campaign next year, they might turn around and say, no, sorry, we don't believe in green. Green's not important, it's not relevant, take the green stuff out. They're like, guys, green's really, really, really important if you want to connect with, your Generation Z. And they're like, well, we don't want it. Nothing you can do. I've had clients, literally in the last few months, I did a marketing strategy for her. Wonderful client, small business owner. She runs a 5-star boutique guest house, and her husband is a doctor. Okay, and she said to me, please put together a marketing strategy for me. I put together a marketing strategy for her. I explained the whole thing to her, the whole thing to her about it, went through it with her, and she didn't implement it. So, and then I started trying to implement things, bits and pieces for her, and she said, no, please stop doing that. And then she got upset, and I said to her, I'm really sorry, fabulous client. Just to let you know, my hands are tied. I can't do anything without telling me what to do, but not doing anything is not a good idea. So you either need to advise me on what you want me to do, or you need to let me do it. Anyway, so she hasn't done anything. Nothing I can do. She paid me. I'm grateful. I have the money. Thank you so much. Do I think her brand can benefit from a fantastic marketing strategy? Yes. But do I see her implementing it? No. She doesn't understand, what is important in terms of media management. So she has a Facebook presence. I created a YouTube channel for her that's had like 4 views and it's got like 1 video because she won't let me create new content. I can't dictate to clients. The client has to dictate to me. So that is unfortunately. So you can see, guys, focusing on the many resources, human and non-human, that combine to form the source of all the media action. Okay, so guys, it's similar to the process of the adaptation to technological development, and that is the challenge of adapting to the evolution of media content models. So there is a really, really good video that I saw when I was at Vega. I haven't been able to find it because I lost my hard drive on my old computer, but it basically showed how in the 1950s, when TV first started becoming quite a prominent thing in the United States, okay, so this is just after the war, etc. So early 50s, late 40s. Okay, there were literally 3 or maybe 4 major media. There was a TV station, there was a radio station, there was a newspaper that you read, and there was maybe a billboard on the way home from work. That was it. Okay, and so if you were a company and you covered those 4 media, you basically covered 90% of the market. Nowadays, if you do that, you'll be lucky if you cover 15% of the market, maybe 20, maybe 25. Remember, South Africa is also, you have a very interesting dichotomy in that we're not entirely, quote unquote, first world. You still have people who use traditional media because they don't have access to it. But remember, guys, do you know a single person who doesn't have a cell phone? I don't. I personally have 2, and everybody in my family's got at least 1. Okay, so even if it's not necessarily a smartphone, people, so they don't need to pay attention to what's being said on SABC or whatever it is. So you have to remember, it's a vastly changing world, and especially on the media front. Okay, so moving along, media products are becoming increasingly hybridized and are difficult to place into categories that can be isolated and therefore effectively managed. You can't control the narrative anymore. You can't control because there's so much about it. That's why the ANC is freaking out, just as an example, about Andre de Ruyter, and Eskom is freaking out because how do they take back and unring that bell where he's accusing them of corruption with, the electricity provider? And you might say, what is the knock-on effect? I mean, you hear about, I saw a YouTube, not a YouTube, yeah, it was a WhatsApp video that was forwarded to me of the police going into Tshwane, the Tshwane metropolitan, so obviously Pretoria and surrounds, to go and disconnect thousands of illegal connections that they're saying this has a huge effect on draining the electricity grid and they're not paying for it. Okay, now you can argue, yeah, but how is it fair that we can't afford the electricity because it's so expensive? You've not provided the service, and when it gets disconnected, you don't come and reconnect it because you're not doing your jobs at Tshwane municipality, And so you can have this huge argument, guys. It's such an interesting thing, and we live in interesting times. It's an old Chinese proverb, which is also a Chinese curse. It says, "May you live in interesting times," and we most certainly do. Okay, so you can't control that narrative. It's very difficult, because if somebody shares a YouTube video, or somebody shares a Facebook video, or somebody shares a WhatsApp video, and it goes to 10,000 people, you can't turn that off. You can't. It's there. It's out there. You just got to deal with it. Okay, so the consumer's relationship with content. Technology offers increase in user participation and your co-creators. Okay, so we all, as I said to the students in last week's class, if 9/11 had happened in 2023, we had one video of the first airplane crashing into the first tower. That happened because the guy was busy filming, and he heard the plane go over. He lifted up his camera and took a shot just as before the plane flew into the building. If it had been today, there probably would have been 100,000 people filming everything, and they'd have huge amounts of information on it, which we still do, because but not in comparison to what happened now. I said to students last week as well, if the Titanic had sunk in 2023, first of all, we wouldn't have had such a big loss of life, because we have plastic lifeboats and blow up lifeboats, that kind of thing. But probably some people would still have ended up in the water where it was freezing cold and died of hypothermia. But you can imagine all the survivors that all have 10,000 videos of the Titanic sinking. Okay, and because that's just what we do these days. So we become co-creators just by shooting a video. Okay, media managers. And there was a video that I don't know if you guys saw. Somebody took a photograph of a guy. He was in a trolley attached to the back of an engine petrol truck on the highway in Pretoria. And this went viral, and then of course so the guys, the whole idea of viral most of the time happens because of social media. That's when it goes viral. Very difficult to control. So how do you do that? Media managers and workers need to rethink the processes and practices when making content and designing user experiences. It is a challenge, guys. Challenges arise often, and they develop or they increase, which leads to a more unstable environment than in the past, rising costs, declining revenue because of advertising, and increasing competition. Okay, so there we go. YouTube Shorts, I'm pretty sure, was an immediate reaction and knock-on effect because of TikTok. YouTube said, listen, people are not watching long-form video anymore, let's do YouTube Shorts. And also because of Instagram Stories, which I've never, ever used. Okay, but you can see they're all, even the modern, some people are already saying it's the end of YouTube, it's the end of Facebook, they're over, they're done. It depends on you, I suppose. Maybe you feel the same. Maybe it's like TikTok is king, content is king, form is king, and of course, the end of American domination and the rise of China. That could be true. You may agree with that. You might say that is a fact. Okay, let's see. I must actually get all your surnames down at some point. All right, guys. Moving along, companies and individuals have to adapt to working with scarce resources. There's much more creativity. It's very hard to get people. I create a fair amount of YouTube content. It's very, very difficult to get people to pay attention to it because there is so much good content on YouTube. Dennis, I'm sure you have the same problem. And I'm sure some of you guys, I'd love to get to know what you guys do. Okay, you're battling to find content, that people will watch, that people will pay attention to. They did a survey about 15 years ago, and they said it needs to be cute. So animals or children will always be good. It needs to be really, really funny. That's another key. It needs to be, oh, that's so sweet, that kind of thing, which sort of relates to cute with animals and kids. It needs to be somebody who is so good, like somebody who can play, piano with like 15 fingers. That would be unique, because that would get lots of views. Or something that has just never been done before. That's complete, which is very difficult to do as well. And that is, so you can see, guys, innovation, ongoing competition for market demand, trying to get people's attention. So what are the possible solutions? You can see managing media work can be viewed on 3 levels. Guys, you can link this back to your PESEL factors when you're looking at your macro environment in which your company focuses. Okay, so on a macro level, the macro level of media production, you have industry regulations, you have technology, and you have competition. The trends, new small media forms are forming at unusually high rates. There are high levels of ownership concentration. Governments will pass tax incentives to attract media companies, and companies are undercutting the industry Where does it stop? Guys, some of the stuff is only relevant to the United States. They have a very, very advanced media industry. So do we. Okay, but ours is small. If you think about it, South Africa is only about 1/7 the size of the United States. Alaska, which is their largest state, is bigger than the whole of South Africa. Okay, and we have 60 million people. The United States is headed for 360 million people. So they have almost more than 5 times as many people. It's a very, very big country. So a lot of the stuff is not necessary, and also what's happening in Europe. A lot of stuff is not necessarily relevant to us. You need to keep these things in mind and then apply to South Africa's media culture. Okay, so on the meso level, the middle level, methods, culture, strategies, and policies that shape media production, organizational management techniques, which are incorporated by media companies. The content is taken on a new identity with a variety of shapes and sizes, and the growing bond between creativity and management. So guys, this is theory that we're going through. This is not necessarily relevant to your assignment. You're not going to be examined on this. I'm not going to say to you, give me Dewes's 7 points on macro, meso, and micro level, management of media. I'm not going to ask you a question. You can use this theory in an application question, but your questions are almost always going to be application questions. I'm not looking to test your theory, your knowledge of theory. It has to be application to get you ready for industry. Remember, if you finish, I'm assuming most of you are finishing your degree this year. Next year, you're going into industry. Less than a year's time, you'll be in industry, maybe even before then. Okay. Then micro level, interactions and relationships that make up a company, and individuals' approach to their career, synthesizing the work of colleagues, consumer and companies, the foundation of a new sense of professional identity. It's more flexible, it's overlapping sets of skills and competencies. You can't focus on your own silo anymore, and it can be empowering or it can cause uncertainty. So guys, macro levels at the big level, micro levels at the small level. So you can see micro level is looking at, macro is looking at industry regulations and competition and government regulation. Micro level is looking at relationships, okay, individual approaches, synthesizing of work, etc., etc. So compare and contrast. Okay, and the thing is, you can even argue that macro tends to be focused on old traditional media, your big media. Micro tends to be focused on new digital media. Not always. There's a huge overlap, but there we go. Right, so guys, a business model. This is a YouTube video. I'm going to skip them, guys, just simply because we have a connectivity issue. Please go watch the video, okay, on what business models are. Okay, but I've written over here for you. This is what we need to be focusing on over here. And guys, this is important. You can see this is important for your assignment. Okay, so spray and pray versus strategic integration. The traditional role of mass media, which is spray and pray. So you spray, remember, think of the 50s. Okay, so I place a 30-second advert on TV, a 30-second advert on radio. I do a big spread in the Sunday newspaper, and I do a billboard. So dad can see all those media on the way to work and home from work. Okay, now this is the 1950s. Does the mother have the spending power? Remember, this is the 50s where women had to ask their husbands to spend money. They couldn't get a credit card in their own name. They had to ask their husband if they could use theirs. The husband had the checkbook, which is give the wife some pocket money. So was he the decision maker? She, at the end of the day, went and bought the specific brand. Okay, but think about that over there. And what you do is you spray those 4 media with a massive campaign and pray that it would work. And back in the 1950s, when you had limited attention spans because people had far less complex lives with so many things, it worked. Okay, so refer back to the communications model that we discussed last week, which equates to the business model. You could use the communications model as your business model. Okay, so the contemporary integration of the outside-in focus, which equates to the business strategy. What we're saying, guys, is you need to focus, your business strategy needs to consider the fact that people are going to help you create the content, whether you want them to or not. Okay, and especially if your communication and your agenda is, we're the good guys, okay, and people are saying, no, we don't believe it. And we've got the perfect example right now. Whatever your feelings are on Russia versus Ukraine, okay, Putin and his people are trying to spin a specific narrative, and the West is trying to spin a different narrative. And Putin is saying, well, you know, we believe that, you know, Ukraine should never be split from us. They have no right to join NATO, etc., etc., etc. We're winning this war, it's this constant going on backwards and forth. And some people are saying, Russia, we don't believe you. Sorry, we're not buying it. We think that what you guys have done is wrong. You have no right to invade a sovereign nation that's right next door to you. And Putin's having a hard time convincing people that that is not the case. In Russia, people are believing him, not all of them. I subscribe to a channel of a guy who interviews Russians, and when he's in Moscow and St. Petersburg, people are very negative about Putin. When he goes out into the rural areas where people are less educated and less exposed to the world, in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Moscow is a big city like Joburg. It's huge, like Joburg. So you get lots of international influence, lots of outside influence. They are far less likely to believe a Putin, this war is good for Russia message than somebody who lives in a small town where they don't have that same exposure, okay, and they're older, and they say, well, Putin's a good guy. If that's what you believe, maybe you think Zelensky's the bad guy. It's up to you. I'm not trying to set my own narrative here. I have my own thoughts, but it's entirely up to you. But you can see the focus, guys, has changed to from the outside in. Putin's battling with that. He's really battling to convince people that brand Russia is just fine. Okay, brand custodians versus brand ambassadors versus brand influencers. So guys, you as the media manager or the marketing manager are the custodian of the brand. You may have a brand ambassador. So if you're a big brand, you can afford it. You might have a Beyonce promoting, your brand. Think of Joe Biden or think of Hillary Clinton as just we're talking about politics. Okay, so when a Jay-Z gets up on stage and endorses a Barack Obama, that is a brand ambassador. That's really, really good for Barack Obama. And Barack Obama, who had 2 successful terms, or 2 terms as president, gets up and endorses a Joe Biden and does not endorse a Trump. And a Trump is saying, oh, it's all fake media. Here's the fake news and the fake media. Okay, so that, and then you look at the brand influencers, people who are able to get through and say, sorry, I don't believe what you're saying. And they're people who believe me, and they're putting away from the message that you're trying to create as, the brand. So that is important to consider as well. Do we really, really need social media? Some people say no. Guys, this is my short answer to the thing. You need all media. You might not be able to use all the media, but you should at least consider all the media and then decide on a mix that's going to work best for you. But you should never, ever in this day and age, and I'm sure you all agree with me, and you really knew this, you should never, ever have a strategy that doesn't include new media, especially if you have a young company that comes in and says, listen, we've got no money, we've got no budgets. So then, okay, fine. Then give them the opportunity to. That's a question in the supplementary assignment, which you're not going through. The NSPCA, that's the question. The National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the SPCA, has come to you as a marketing person or as a media manager and said, listen, we've got no money. Please put together a zero-based marketing campaign for us. Oh, crumbs. There's nobody left on the thing except for Tekhofatso and Dennis. Guys, I hope you can still hear me. Can you hear me? Hope you can still hear me. Dennis, can you let me know if you can still hear me? Tekhofatso, can you let me know if you can still hear me? Please. Loud and clear. Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you very much. Good to know. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Tekhofatso. So I hope the other guys can still make it. Okay. All right. So, guys, yes, you do need social media. You need to decide what social media you need, but you do need social media. It's if you were the SPCA with zero budget, doing a social media campaign is better than doing nothing. Okay. Why is social media the poor relation of big traditional media? Let's see who's saying something, or somebody back, or people chat. Excuse me. Dennis, was this message from you? Let me just see. Might have been. Loud and clear. Okay, that's you. Okay, so the first recording is. Oh, why is it only an hour? We weren't busy just for an hour. Oh gosh, that's weird. This recording is set to expire. What if it stopped? Recording has started. Gosh, I never know if these things are still recording. Record and transcribe. No, it's still recording. That's very weird. I don't know why that other recording's only an hour long anyway. I'm not sure. Okay, guys, so I'm glad you can still hear me. I just sort out those recordings. I don't know how that works, but anyway, okay. That's why social media, the poor relation of big traditional media, because big traditional media can still feel like it's, like I said to you, you think it can still feel like it's a prestigious thing. If you can afford a TV advert, I personally think TV adverts these days are a huge waste of money. But if you can afford a big TV advert or something, that is amazing. You know, that really, really is amazing. So, yes. Oh, sorry, Matsidiso supposed to come in. Apologies, Matsidiso. Come in. Okay, so guys, social media's greatest asset is also its biggest downfall because it's little, technically speaking, but it's also very immediate and it can have a huge knock-on effect. I mean, and usually what happens is if somebody breaks through in social media, it'll then get picked up by your mass media. They will pick it up and say, oh, this just in, there was a video that was on TikTok that's gone viral, and they'll speak about it and they'll show the video. Okay, so that's usually what happens, which is cool. You can see the integration between the two. Okay, so just bear that in mind, and how that relates to the stuff that you've discussed. Spray and pray. If you're doing a spray and pray campaign for the ANC, that's not going to work. Okay, so I've said, how are you feeling? This is actually for last week. You feel like you have had an assault? Lol, if you do. Okay, but guys, so that is finally section 3 finished. So now we can move on to the next one. We're scheduled to take a break again in about 40 minutes. So just to let you guys know, at about 3:20. Sorry, these classes are very long, I know. I apologize for that, but unfortunately we have so much work to get through. Okay, so yes. Okay, so guys, let me just move on to, we've now looked at your first assignment. So we've done that because we've done these in a different order. I'm now going to go out of here and open up your new stuff for today. Oh, I haven't got it. Where? Oh, it is here. Is it here? Oh, it is here. Okay, cool. All right, so class 5.
Miguel, you're in trouble.
Matsidiso, please turn off your microphone. I can hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh.
No worries. Thanks. No worries. Cool. Thanks. Cool. Welcome back, Annalena. Okay. All right, guys. So this is now quite a different lesson because it doesn't come from your textbook. It comes from something extra. You will find some information about this in any marketing textbook, but this is really quite specific. Okay, so, and guys, this is important. Some people may disagree with me on this over here, and you may even disagree with me, but then you need to convince me that that is the case. Okay, so last time on the show, Days of Our Lives, we looked at the F1 assessment, and now we'll be discussing an intro to branding. And as I said to you last week, guys, everything is related to branding. So you as a media manager need to understand branding. Why are we doing this specific lecture, which feels like a bit of a break in the program? I want to convince you guys that brand loyalty does not exist. That's why always in the assignment, I wrote loyalty in inverted commas. It is industry folly to assume that people are loyal to your brand. It makes companies lazy and complacent. That is why we have a culture of bad service, especially with big companies. If they think, we own the market, we have big market share, their service is usually really, really bad. Okay, so I think, for example, I'm going to name and shame. I walked into a Debonairs the other day. I feel sorry for those ladies because it's very hot at the moment, and they're standing there in those thingies baking those pizzas, and it's very, very, very hot. But when you walk in and the service is just so bad, and they look like they're really, really unhappy, and they don't greet you, you've got to greet them first, and you can barely, it's just very, very, very frustrating because they're market leaders. They are owned by Famous Brands, I think. They're part of the Famous Brands group. Okay, and Famous Brands, for me personally, when Famous Brands touches a brand, it tends to go down because what they do is they standardize it and try and do like a McDonald's thing to it, which doesn't work for me. So, guys, you make the assumption that people are loyal to your brand, it makes you lazy and complacent. I would even go so far as to say this is one of the issues we have with political parties, not just the ANC, other parties as well. They think, oh, well, we have 15% market share, we can chill now. Okay, and then we have this culture of bad service. Excuse me. Okay, so you may disagree with me, and you can argue for that, but you need to be able to prove it. So if you say to me, listen, Rob, I don't agree with you, brand loyalty does exist, prove it. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a bad chest cold or bad chest infection. So please forgive me for hucking up half a lung here. Okay, what I want to say to you guys is, guys, this is really important, especially for the question on the ANC, also to some extent on, or actually for all three of your questions, as you'll see, I wrote in the notes, okay? Also for the question on Mackie's mechanics, and also for the situation with the British royal family as a brand, okay, the British monarchy. Okay, so substantiate your answer with scientific and academic articles that will shore up your argument. This is not the major focus of your assignment, guys. There needs to be some reference to brand authenticity and to branding in your assignment, which you need to go to get extra sources for. But I'm not asking you for a 3-page essay on why brand loyalty does exist or why brand loyalty doesn't exist. You need to make mention of it, for example, with the ANC, and say, listen, Gen Z, which is the up-and-coming generation, they're all digital natives, they all live on TikTok, they're not loyal to any political brand. How would I convince them to vote for the ANC? You need to be able to explain that and explain the details of that. Okay, all right, guys. So substantiate your answer with scientific and academic articles that will shore up your argument. Why is this important for integrated media management? Integration is not just about making sure that all your media are talking to each other and conveying the same message. Integration is about ensuring that the whole organization understands the company's objective. Good luck with this one, guys. Good luck. The ops manager in a company doesn't care about the marketing brand. He doesn't care about, I've seen it, I used to work in the shopping center industry. We had we had the general manager, we had 4 line managers underneath as well. The marketing manager, the ops manager, the leasing manager, and the financial manager. The financial manager made sure that all the bills got paid. She collected the rent from the tenants. Okay, and then she distributed the money to the various departments, paid our salaries, distributed the money. Obviously, they needed a toilet fix, that all got done. The ops manager, okay, obviously had to fix the broken escalators and the cracked tiles and deal with security issues, etc., etc., etc. The leasing manager had to get tenants into the center and keep them there. Okay, so I mean, I was involved with some really big centers. I was involved with Cresta, Westgate, Eastgate, and a whole bunch of others, but there we go. Just those 3 alone are enormous centers. Okay, so, and I can tell you right now as well, the ops manager at Cresta, very nice guy, very, very, very nice guy, didn't really understand, because remember, if you are a shopper who walks through a shopping center and somebody here said to you, listen, come into the center, spend 100 Rand, we'll give you a 500 Rand gift card to spend over here. Okay, and you walk into the center, you're all happy because you're not going to get a 500 gift card, and you've slipped and cracked, you know, your favorite high heel shoe on a broken tile, and you break the heel off and you sprain your ankle. That has nothing to do with marketing. It's got everything to do with operations. But the person who's experienced that as the Cresta brand or whatever brand is going to blame the Cresta brand, and is going to blame the marketing department because you're a really lousy shopping center and I hate you because, you know, you've got rubbish tiles on the floor that have, you know, damaged my foot and ruined my favorite pair of high heels. The ops manager doesn't understand that. Like, listen, dude, do you understand the damage that does to the brand? He's like, oh, we'll get the tile fixed. What's the problem? But it has a knock-on effect. Okay, so trying to convince and look at a completely different brand. Let's look at something totally completely different. Mangaung, Bloemfontein, the city. They maybe have, and I know because I know some people who live there. Okay, this is like a normal South African problem. They don't fix their potholes like a lot of places don't, as much as they used to, because money's been misappropriated, funds have been whatever it is, money's not been given to them, it's whatever it is. Okay, so now you can turn around and say, so if you put together a marketing campaign and a media campaign, welcome to the place of the cheetah, Mangaung, Bloemfontein. Okay, and you say to people, come and visit our fine city, the city of roses, the capital of the Free State, the place of the Supreme Court of Appeals, center of the country, lovely beef that you can get here, lovely, farming land, wide open spaces, low crime rates. And they're going to turn around and say, well, I don't want to go there because when I drove through the last time, I damaged all 4 tires on my 4x4 and had to have my car realigned. It cost me 10,000 Rand. So I absolutely hate Bloemfontein. I hate Mangaung. The guy who fixes the potholes doesn't care that he's damaged the brand. Okay, he doesn't care that he's made your job very, very difficult as the media person. But he does, because that is how people perceive brands. Okay, so integration is also about ensuring that the brand message is consistent, clear, and compelling. People must know that you're saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it's the same message the whole time. Integration is also about creating multiple reasons to use the brand. Think back to lecture 1. Brands create solutions for human problems. If you are creating solutions for human problems, you will, as I said to you last week, always have a job and always be able to focus on being an asset to the company that you work for, or being an asset to your own company. Okay, and then you'll always make money. So that's a really important thing, guys. Okay, so I want to inculcate in you, if you will allow me to, a culture of questioning whether or not brands have loyalty. Okay, so guys, these videos, in the interest of just not messing up the thingy, you can click on these links over here. You can see these are the links. What is branding? I played that video for you guys last week. Is brand loyalty a myth? It's only about a 1-minute 30-second video where she speaks about brand loyalty in terms of your expectation of the company and the angle from which you're coming. Very interesting. So please try and watch these. These will help. Okay, so guys, branding, this is a very small introduction, is everything. Okay, but specifically branding is about the creation of sustainable competitive advantage. So if you come along like Apple, you are constantly innovating, you're constantly at the forefront of technological development, you have a great UX, a great DX, you've got a sexy looking phone that's really awesome, okay, and I know some people who are diehard Apple fans. Dennis, you might be one of them because I know you're involved in music. Diehard Apple fans will only use Apple. It's got to be an Apple Mac, it's got to be an Apple phone, it's got to be an iPhone, it's got to be an an iPad, and it's also got to be an Apple desktop, like an Apple Mac, whatever it is. So that may be, there's some people like that. You might say, well, why are they so loyal to Apple? Simply because they believe that Apple is at the forefront of everything. I personally am a Samsung user. Okay, I like Samsung because it's got Android on it. Okay, but and those are the only 2 available. When I spoke to a student last week who's in the evening class, she's a little bit older, and she said she vividly remembers the whole craze with BlackBerry and BBM 10, 12 years ago. Okay, everybody was crazy. What's happened to BlackBerry? I don't know if it exists. What's happened to Nokia? When Nokia first came out, that little ringtone, that was Nokia's ringtone. It was synonymous with Nokia. Nokia was at the forefront of cell phone technology development. They're barely even alive these days. When you walk into your Vodacom or your Telcom or your MTN to go and get a new phone, they don't usually offer you a Nokia or a BlackBerry. They offer you a Samsung or an Apple. That's usually what it is. Okay, so how do you create that sustainable competitive advantage? You need to go and determine what it is. And you can ask yourself the question, go and put this into your assignment. I'll be impressed. What is the ANC sustainable competitive advantage? Does it have one? How can you create one for them? How can you manufacture one for them? How can you communicate that to the public? The ANC is the only political party that does what? That liberated the country, maybe. That's the only angle that I can think of. You may disagree. You might come up with great ideas on what it is. And I will say this, okay, despite the many failings of our government, and I'm not dissing Brand South Africa. I love Brand South Africa. It's got its problems like any brand in the world. And I'm not necessarily saying I agree with this necessarily, okay? Personally, for me, I don't like the smell, okay, but I try to respect other people's rights. South Africa is one of the very, very, very few countries in the world where it's legal to smoke weed. Okay, whether you believe in that or agree with it, whatever it is, that's a right that has been constitutionally guaranteed to us by the Constitutional Court that you won't find in most other countries around the world, irrespective of where they might be. So I'm not a huge fan. I don't like the smell when I walk past somebody, but the thing is, I have to respect the fact that that is their thingy. South Africa also is the 5th country in the world, was the 5th country in the world, and it's the only country in Africa where you can get married. You can be married to another man if you're a man or another woman. Okay, so gay marriage is perfectly legal, and you can adopt children and so on and so forth. Okay, those are some of the rights that so you could say as the ANC, we made that happen because we had the majority of votes in Parliament, and when it came to vote on those issues, we voted for those hot button topics, and we said we're voting for that. So we have ensured your freedoms as a citizen of South Africa, more so than other countries in the world, because South Africa has been ahead of other countries, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, most of Europe, when it comes to those rights. Okay, so that could be something. And if you can say that, guys, in creative, sustainable, competitive advantage, that is what branding is all about. Branding is about differentiation. And if look at this, let's take it to your assignment. There's 3 primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. Okay. The 3 top political parties: red is the EFF, yellow is the ANC, and blue is the DA. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe they just knew that's about differentiating the distinctiveness. If you see somebody walking around with a blue T-shirt and the logo, then you know it's probably a DA person. Okay, because that's what we do. We create the associations. If I show you a photograph, okay, of something red with like a ribbon running through it, you'll probably say to me, "Oh, that looks like it's a Coca-Cola background." Just to let you know, in terms of Coca-Cola does this extremely well. That we did that branding thing on Coca-Cola last week. Okay, Coke. All the judges at Idols, at once in American Idol, all had Coke on their desk. Now, apparently, Paula Abdul or whomever it was up there didn't drink the Coke. She doesn't drink Coke. She was drinking water, but she would sip from the thing to show people that she was drinking Coke. They sat down on a chair when they interviewed the contestants. I didn't watch American Idol, but the couch was in the Coca-Cola red and was shaped in the form of the ribbon. That ribbon has been copyrighted. It's patented. You can't use it. If you use it, you'll get into trouble. Because remember, there are lots and lots and lots of competitors to Coke. Everyone wants to try and capitalize on that trillion-dollar industry with Coca-Cola. We can actually go through that a little bit today. Okay. The other thing I was going to say to you as well is, if you have a look at Father Christmas, you can go check it and tell me if I'm right or wrong. As I understand it, and to my knowledge, Father Christmas's colors, which are red and white, were chosen because of the association with Coca-Cola. And you can see how much advertising Coca-Cola has done around Christmas, because they want to own Christmas, the holiday, because Christmas, the holiday, is the most prominent feature in everybody's minds. It's all shut down. It's all spend time with our families. Coca-Cola. Okay, so guys, this is what branding's about: distinctiveness. And then branding's also about authenticity. You've got to be authentic. If you don't believe the person, and this is where I quote Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde. Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." And Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." I remember speaking to somebody a long time ago. Actually, he's a guy who, Dennis, you might find this interesting, a guy who he's a producer who worked with an artist. And he said to this artist, he said to them, "You got to be yourself. Just be a bigger version of yourself." So it's got to be authentic, guys. If Adele starts singing opera tomorrow, you probably won't believe her, even though maybe she can. I don't know. Okay, if if the ANC starts promoting, what's his name, Johan Rupert tomorrow, and the Stellenbosch, guys, with the white monopoly capital, you're not going to believe them. You're like, no, there's something very wrong here. Okay, so if Coca-Cola now starts promoting Pepsi, there's something wrong. There's no authenticity there. Okay, so guys, is there brand loyalty is my question to you. According to Wikipedia, loyalty is a devotion and faithfulness to a nation, cause, philosophy, country, group, or person. Can we say that about a brand? Excuse me. Okay, so probably I can get through all of this today. I'm going to leave the slides for you to read on your own. I'm just going to read highlights because I've actually included an article that I wrote. But let's discuss my model. I'm very proud of my model. Promises myths of brand loyalty. Okay, so we're going to discuss this. Brand loyalty, I claim, is a delusion. The very best a brand can strive for to achieve is brand preference, followed by brand insistence. Okay, so starting on the left, moving to the right, to the bottom, you can see over here, the red indicates the brand's marketing action. So what it needs to do to achieve some level of brand preference or brand insistence. Okay, so let's have a look. You have a brand at the beginning on the left-hand side, and you either have awareness of the brand or you have non-awareness of the brand. So the brand's you're either aware of the brand or you're not aware of the brand. Okay. If you're not aware of the brand, guys, you can see over there I said create awareness and convert to user. Why may you not be aware of the brand? So maybe none of you has ever heard of Walter Mondale as an example. Now, Walter Mondale was the 1984 presidential candidate who ran against Ronald Reagan. Now, this is, you guys weren't even born yet, some of you, okay? I myself was very young when this happened. I mean, I can barely remember myself. And he ran with the first woman who ever ran for vice president. So Kamala Harris obviously is now vice president, but she was the first woman to ever run vice president. Her name is Geraldine Ferraro. Not like the chocolate, but not the same, okay? You might say to me, Rob, I've never heard of Walter Mondale or Geraldine Ferraro. So you're not aware of the brand. So now you need to make the person aware of the brand and say, remember I said to you guys at the beginning, what is marketing, which is related to media? Marketing is about creating a product, service, or idea that people want or need. What's the difference between needs and wants? And then telling them that you have it, so they will then possibly engage with you and use it. So the example we used is, I need to eat, if you go back to Maslow, I need to eat something healthy. And what I want, though, is a burger. So I need to eat, but what I would like to eat, what I want to eat is a burger. Okay, so then you have awareness, guys. So maybe you are aware of the brand. And then when you become aware of the brand, there are two possible states. The first state is brand rejection. In other words, you reject the brand. The second state is brand acceptance, where you accept the brand. So now let's have a look at this in terms of your assignment, brand rejection. I am aware of the ANC brand, says the Gogo who's staying in KwaMashu or Soweto or Khayelitsha or Ibai or Mamelodi. There you go, there's 5 largest cities in the country. Okay, but I reject the ANC brand. I will not go and vote for them because I don't believe that they have our best interests at heart. How do you, so you can see over there, I've got the arrow, ascertain why the brand is being rejected and attempt redress. Okay, Gogo, what is it going to convince you to go vote for the ANC? No, I can't. I wouldn't because I'm an IFP supporter. Okay, why are you an IFP supporter? Because I like Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Okay, cool. And think of somebody who's younger, that Gogo, beautiful soul, worked really, really hard to put her son or daughter through university. And her son and daughter then put their children through university. And that person who's now going through university is you. Okay, so you are now a very sophisticated, well-educated, intelligent person because of the sacrifices that your grandparents and your parents made. Okay, and now you decide to reject the ANC brand. Why are you rejecting the brand? Can you give me reasons? Well, Rob, I'm rejecting the brand because we've got load shedding, we've got state capture, we've got SAA stealing all the money, we've got PRASA stealing all the money, we've got Eskom taking all the money, etc. Or no, Rob, I vote ANC because, you know, at least they have our backs because they've given me my right to smoke marijuana. Okay, and therefore I will support the ANC brand. Okay, but in some cases, then you'll have people say, okay, well, I accept the brand. Then you have three states there. You have non-use of the brand, use of the brand, or no longer use. So let's start at the bottom with no longer use. You can see ascertain why in a temporary dress. Why are you no longer using the brand? So this could be the Gogo, okay, who used to vote for the ANC. She voted for the ANC in 1994. She voted in 1999. She voted in 2004. And then by the time 2009 rolled around, she's like, I haven't seen any changes. I haven't got my RDP house or my free house. I haven't got any more money. I'm still struggling to buy Millipap or whatever it is. Okay, I'm not voting for anybody. I'll vote for nobody. So you need to go and ask her, okay, Gogo, why are you not voting for the ANC? Well, why should I? What have they done for me? They've done nothing for me. I'm still living in poverty. I'm still living in my shack on the edge of Joburg in Orange Farm. Why should I vote for the ANC? Okay, then you have, let's go to the top of the scale of their non-use. Okay, so you might say non-use. Why are you not using the brand? You might say, well, okay, and let's change it now. Let's have a look at the royal family. Okay, and say, I don't believe in the royal family. I don't use the brand. I don't believe. Why? I'm not interested in the royals. They're meaningless to me. They're in the UK. And quite frankly, I personally believe that the royal family shouldn't exist. The Britain and the UK should become a republic. We should do away with the monarchy because they have too much money anyway, and they're costing me money. That's what you might say. Okay, then you can see in the middle, guys, you have use. So do you have a light user or do you have a heavy user? If you have a light user, what you want to do is your marketing action is to convert the light user to a heavy user, if you can. If you say, well, why are you a light user? Let's go back to Coke. And say, yeah, I drink the odd Coke. Why don't you drink more Coke? No, because it's got sugar in it. But it's got less sugar than it used to have. So I'm trying to convince you through your media advertising. Or I'm canine waving flag for the 2010 World Cup, or I'm doing the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and Coke is one of my sponsors. Ooh, I don't know if they were, I'm not sure. Okay, and I'm trying to convince you that Coke is a good thing because open happiness, or have a Coke and a smile, or whatever it is. So you're trying to convert them into heavy users. Okay, and then what you do is you have, if you're a heavy user of the brand, you'll have brand preference or brand insistence. Let's start with brand preference. Brand preference is where you have somebody who would prefer to use the brand, but if they don't have the brand available, they might go for an alternative, but they'd prefer to use their brand. So let's take it back to politics again, the ANC. Okay, I prefer to vote for the ANC, but actually I am quite upset with them because I don't think they've done their work. Who is the best alternative? I'll vote for Action SA. Let's vote for Herman Mashaba and give him a chance. Or I'll vote for the ACDP. Or I'll vote for the IFP because they're not that bad. I've met our councillor, he's not so bad. That's brand preference. Or guys, what you have is brand insistence, which is, so you can see over here I said massively target and appeal to heavy users to the point of brand preference or insistence. Brand insistence is not the same as brand loyalty. It is your most desired outcome, where they insist on using the brand, and in the absence of that brand not being available, they won't use another brand. They say, okay, I walked into Pick n Pay and I was looking for Beacon Jelly Tots. They don't have Beacon Jelly Tots. They've only got no-name brand Jelly Tots. I don't like the taste of no-name brand Jelly Tots. I'm going to use, I'll just go with Arts. That's brand insistence. And you might say, Rob, isn't that brand loyalty? No, because if Beacon Jelly Tots weren't, if no-name brand Jelly Tots made as good a Jelly Tot as Beacon made Jelly Tots, maybe you would switch. You'd say, okay, I don't mind switching. I mean, could you imagine, this is very difficult to achieve. It's kind of like Israel as well. If you look at Israel and Palestine, and here I am going to offer an opinion. I personally believe in a two-state solution. Palestine has every right to exist, and Israel needs to respect that right. And they did back in 1948 when they split the Palestine and Israel, okay, the two states. Israel accepted it. The Palestinians did not. They invaded Israel. Israel fought back. They won, and so then began the whole thing, okay? But I believe in a two-state solution. So I would say you need to slowly but surely either tell the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, listen, guys, Palestine is going to become an independent country. If you choose to stay in Palestine, you're most welcome to. I have no problem with that. But please note then you're going to become a Palestinian citizen that is beholden to the Palestinian government. Alternatively, we will give you $1 million, move back to Israel. But you have 5 years because we've negotiated a 5-year peace settlement with the Palestinians. Within 5 years, they're going to have an election and they're going to become an independent state, no longer involved with Israel. Okay, I can tell you right now, there is no government that you could ever form that would ever allow that to happen. Benjamin Netanyahu couldn't form a coalition with the left, which is the more liberal. He had to go to the right to go and form a coalition government. No people in Israel, if you went to the people of Israel, a lot, not all of them, a lot of them, and said, listen, Palestine needs to become independent. We need to remove the 700,000 Jewish settlers from Israel, put them back into Israel. That's what I propose as your new leader. They will vote you out of office. They'll never get it right. And trust me, I'm a huge fan of Israel. Love Israel. I think they're amazing. I'd love to go visit Israel, but I still believe in a two-state solution. And I believe that Palestine has its own right to make its own determinations. Now, I'm not an Israeli settler, Jewish settler living in the West Bank. Okay, so it's not for me to judge. I have no, what do they call it? Skin in the game. I have no skin in the game. So it's not for me to decide. I just have an opinion as somebody on the outside looking in. And I can say, I believe in a two-state solution. But you will never get that passed with a thing. So no matter how much you try, you can never, because people are brand insistent in that respect. Okay, so guys, I hope this is something that you can use. If you want to use this in your assignment, you don't have to. If you want to use this in your assignment, you can quote me as the source. Now you might say, Rob, that is such an ego trip. Maybe it is. I think this is very, very, very useful. If you want to use this in your assignment, you're most welcome to use it. And you can quote me. Try and find additional sources to back up what I'm saying, but you can use it. Don't make it all about this over here, but you can, because this is based on research that I did for my master's degree. So it's based on lots and lots and lots of my own research as well. So you can use it as one source. Okay, if you want to, just to let you guys know. Okay, so guys, now I wrote this really, really, really long article. I'm going to read the highlights of it. Otherwise, you're going to be here all day. And then we're going to take a break after this, because this then concludes the next lesson. Okay, let me see if you're all still alive, if you're all still here. Cool, good turnout still. Lindiwe, Onalena, Matsidiso, Tsechofatso, Rotando, and Dennis. Love it. Cool. Thanks for staying, guys. Appreciate it. Please feel free to leave when you have to. I will understand, but I'm really glad that you guys are still with me in the class. Remember, I'm here for you. Okay, so the myth of brand loyalty. Popular and well-respected branding guru David Archer will tell you that there are 4 elements to brand equity. Okay, and we can discuss the meaning of equity. This is an article that I wrote. So in another article, brand awareness, so people know your brand. Perceived brand quality, the brand is perceived as good, functional, useful. Brand associations and personality, how people think about the brand and who or what the brand is associated with. And brand loyalty. Excuse me. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Archer, you may be an expert in the field of branding, but you are dead wrong. Brand loyalty is a myth, a fairy tale, a pipe dream. So read between the lines, people are not loyal, and this is specifically an article I wrote about shopping centers. People are not loyal to your shopping center, but let's call it brand. Okay, because this is an article I wrote for the shopping center industry, but let's call it brand. Okay, now before the marketing fraternity derides me as a branding heretic and starts to stone me as a marketing lecturer, I can tell you that students almost had me violently thrown out of the class when I told them they were delusional about brand loyalty. Let me explain. People are not loyal to brands. People are loyal to their highest values, that which they perceive to be most valuable and important in their lives. When the brand, or where the brand that they currently use meets and matches those values, they will continue to use those brands or that brand. But the minute the brand either stops meeting those highest values or an alternative brand comes along that better meets those highest values, they will switch brands. So in the context of shopping centers, when Cradlestone, for those of you who know the Joburg market, when Cradlestone recently opened, how many people stopped using Clearwater? And how many people decided to go try Cradlestone and then decided once they had seen to go back to Clearwater? Each of us has an example of the reality of brand non-loyalty in our lives. So I'm not going to go through mine about Milo and Nestle hot chocolates. All I can tell you is that I used to be completely fiercely, quote unquote, loyal to Nestle hot chocolates. Nowadays, I can't afford it anymore. It's too expensive. So I've switched to Cocoa, which is just as good. Okay. And when I was in the United States in Los Angeles, I had a Swiss Miss hot chocolate, which if they made it in South Africa, which you can get it here, and it was reasonably priced, I would switch and use that instead. So even in my case, well, I don't believe in brand loyalty. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of the things over here, but I'll read this bottom part of the slide over here. As the accompanying model shows, brand insistence or brand preference are the 2 highest outcomes you can expect for your shopping center brand or any brand. You want people to prefer your brand or insist on it, but you will never get them to use only your brand or center and be loyal to us. Okay, so I'm not going to read the rest for you. But now let's have a look at this. Is very, very important. Okay, now let's take a look at why people are loyal to certain brands. Let's start with Coke, arguably the brand with the highest equity in the world. Firstly, the price is right. For less than the price of a liter of fruit juice, you can get 2 liters of Coke. It's become expensive, but it's still cheaper than fruit juice. Okay. When you have a family to feed, that's important. So listen, that's how people switch, guys. They switch to no-name brands because it's cheaper. And if you've got, 3 kids and they don't care what it is, as long as it's sugary and they can have a hot dog and a burger and drink some Coke, they'll drink it. Okay. So when you have a family to feed, that's important. Then it tastes nice. It's sugary, sweet, and hits the spot on a hot day. Third, Coke is ubiquitous. It is everywhere, easily and readily available for consumers. Guys, that's very, very, very important. I remember the one thing about the ANC when they did the campaign, I think it was 2016. I speak under correction. I think it was 2016, so 7 years ago now. They were everywhere. You went round the corner, there was an ANC billboard. You drove down the road, there was an ANC poster. You open the newspaper, there was an ANC advert. They were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. And that helps to create awareness. It's very difficult to do nowadays and very, very expensive. But if you're the media manager and they've got unlimited budget, then you need to blow it and show them that you can get these things. Okay, so ubiquitous is everywhere, easily and readily available to consumers. If you're not convinced, read Neville Isdell's book about Coke's distribution strategy and their procurement of potable water sources to ensure that Coke would be available within walking distance of every person in Africa. Now, I've read Neville Isdell's book, guys, and he said one of the stated aims of Coca-Cola as a company, they said, guys, we need to have drinkable water, because remember, they use the syrup, and then they use local water to make the Coke, and then they obviously carbonate it. That's why Coke tastes different in different parts of the world and tastes different in different bottles. A plastic bottle versus a metal can or tin can versus a glass bottle. But Coke tastes different in different parts of the world. I was very fortunate. I went to World of Coke in Atlanta. That's where their head office is. And my cousin took me to World of Coke. Fascinating. If you ever get to Atlanta, go to the World of Coke. It is so interesting. It's a fascinating museum. Okay, but anyway, so that was their stated aim. That's why if you go and have a look, Coke is probably the market leader in Africa, because, even though it's expensive, because you can get it everywhere. You even go into some little dorp, in some little place in nowhere, and there's a little pandoki on the side of the road, and it's got some faded old sign that says, Ma Gogo's supermarket, and it's branded in Coke, because Coke did the sign for her. That's why they sell. And you walk into a shop, and you can see there's their Coke fridge. You walk in there and you grab the Coke. You can just, and trust me, I am a fan of Coke. I drink too much of it, trying to cut back. But it's not because they're far healthy things. Water is much better for you. Fruit juice is much better for you. But it's because they have managed to, and I'm not loyal to Coke. I also drink other things. My favorite drink is water because it's very healthy. But I do like Coke. And you're saying, oh, Rob, we don't believe you. Okay. I don't blame you. Okay, fourth, guys, Coke is extremely well marketed. They have spent billions on marketing and continue to have some of the most cutting-edge marketing techniques. It's also been around for the same amount of time as Johannesburg. This is now old because Johannesburg is now 135, I think, not 128, or even older. I wrote this article some time ago. So it has had time to become a brand. Now, if something else came along that tasted better, was comparably priced, was readily available, and had top-of-mind awareness because it was well marketed, then people would switch brands. The Coca-Cola wars with Pepsi in the United States in the 1980s prove this point. Okay, because Pepsi was trying to take on Coke. Also, if you speak to someone whose highest values include health, fitness, and having a beautiful body, then they will tell you that they don't touch the stuff because it is unhealthy and fattening. So you couldn't convince a health junkie that they should drink Coke because they'll say, no, I don't touch that stuff because it's bad for me. Okay, so they're never going to be loyal, quote unquote, to Coke. Why are people loyal to the iPhone? Because in their perception, it currently offers the coolest gadget with the applications that they most desire. If a better phone came along, they would switch brands. Look at the rise and fall of Nokia and BlackBerry and the rise and subsequent rivalry with Apple of Samsung. Why are people loyal to the ANC? Because this is the party of our beloved Madiba. This is the party that finally liberated South Africa from oppressive minority rule and allowed democracy to flourish. But with rising unemployment rates, crime, corruption, and general disappointment in the government to deliver on promises made, people who once voted for the ANC have now either switched brands or, in the absence of perceived lesser evils, have simply abstained from voting This is a great example of brand insistence. So guys, there are people, gogos out there who insistent, I want to vote for the ANC, I want to vote for the ANC. I'm very disappointed. Fine, I'm not going to vote this year then. I'll punish the ANC by not voting for them, but I won't give my vote to another party. Okay. Why are people loyal to brand South Africa as an example? Well, in many cases, they are not. When a better perceived country brand offers them more benefits than drawbacks, according to their values, perhaps brand Australia, brand America, brand New Zealand, brand UK, brand Canada, they switch and move to greener pastures. A company that offers a country that says, come into, we're looking for immigrants, come because we can offer you a better salary. We've got wide open spaces like South Africa. So they'll sell you all the things that are great about South Africa. Okay. Lovely and warm in the summer and not so cold in the winter, and wide open spaces and better value for money because the dollar is stronger than whatever it is. And people say, okay, I'm switching brands. I'm not loyal. I can sing Nkosi Sikelel and I'll take my Springbok t-shirt with me, but I'm going to go live in a different country. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. It's freedom of movement. People must do whatever makes them happy. You may say, oh, how could they, whatever it is, as long as there's a country offering them a better perspective, and the world is becoming more and more integrated. There are people who move from other parts of Africa to South Africa, sometimes illegally. Okay, and they say, well, it's better than living in Zimbabwe, or it's better than living in wherever. So there is, I'm just sharing with you thoughts and feelings, and you can use these in your assignment. Okay, why are people loyal to their spices, to their spouses? Well, with a divorce rate of 50% around the world, need I say more? People are only loyal to their spouses if they perceive that their spouse offers them more benefits than drawbacks. Okay, this is a horrible example, but if you're married to a man or a woman, okay, who steals all the money, tells you she's had an affair, or let's talk about a man. No offense, guys, this is not a sexist thing. Okay, so there's a woman who loves her husband. He gets home. He says to her, honey, I just want to let you know, I'm having an affair. I've had an affair every single year since we've been married. We've been married for 10 years. P.S. by the way, I have HIV and I think I've given it to you. I stole all the money out the bank account. And whatever it is, she's going to turn. And if any of those things is a trigger for her, she's going to say, goodbye, I want a divorce. That's not loyalty. You could say loyalty to death do you part. That's what the vows say. In sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, until death do us part. Those things fly out the window. You challenge that woman in her highest values, and she says, listen, don't ever cheat on me, because if you do, I'm out of here. Well, then, that she's not going to be loyal to, quote unquote, the brand. Okay, so in a nutshell, guys, brand loyalty is a lot of horse pucky. You can keep kidding yourself that a loyalty program is going to turn your center or your brand around, or you can face reality that consumers will do whatever fancies them, and if your center/brand makes the grade, they will support you. So what can you as a brand do about this? I'm not going to go through that with you guys. You can read it. Okay, what I said, for example, is stop calling it a loyalty program. Go do some research, find out why people use your brand. Okay, and then come to realization that consumers are brand promiscuous. They not only use one brand, they will use multiple brands. Some people will say, I know family members who said this, they'll vote for one political party at national level and vote for a different political party at provincial level, or they'll vote for one political party at national and provincial and vote for a different political party at local. Because remember, they split the elections now. Local elections for municipalities, eThekwini, Ekurhuleni, Joburg, Tshwane, Cape Town, etc., happened 2021. National for province and for national are happening in 2024. So people may split their votes. Okay, and that is not really loyalty. You could argue, well, it's really, well, let's go back to the definition of loyalty. I said, well, Rob, that's the problem. What you believe to be loyalty is not what brand loyalty means. Well, I'm just taking it from the original definition. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is what loyalty means. According to Wikipedia, loyalty is a devotion and faithfulness to a nation, cause, philosophy, country, group, or person. Devotion, faithfulness. If I am devoted to the ANC brand, I will not vote for the IFP. I will not vote for the EFF. I will not vote whatever. If they come and if there's load shedding for 23 hours or 24 hours, and I'm blaming it on the ANC, I still will vote for the ANC because I'm loyal and devoted and faithful to the ANC. Well, okay. That's my definition of loyalty. And if you don't say, I'm tired of this government, I want a new one. Thank you so much. I want to vote for somebody else. I want load shedding to be not here. I want to have power like they do in other parts of the world. Thank you. I'd like to see what alternatives there are. And we can see this already happening, guys. They are now saying South Africa is becoming a mature democracy because already, and I think 7 of the 8 municipal districts. Okay, so where you've got the metropolitan municipalities. Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane are all in coalition government, where they weren't in the past. eThekwini's in coalition government. Mangaung, I think Bloemfontein just made it through ANC. East London, Buffalo City just made it through as ANC. Ibai, Nelson Mandela Bay is coalition government. Yeah, so those are the 7. Hey, it's Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, eThekwini, Cape. Okay, the Cape, Western Cape. So Cape Town is DA majority, but the DA has lost majority, guys. They're not as rosy as they think they used to be, because they also have their issues. And people, especially a lot of colored people, have said, I'm not voting for the DA. They have done nothing for the colored people in the Western Cape. I'm going to vote for the Patriotic Alliance or for Patricia de Lille's Good Party, or I'm going to vote for the EFF. I'm going to vote for somebody else. So you have to see, this is all proof, as far as I'm concerned, that brand loyalty is a myth. Okay, so put that all into your assignment, mix it up and make it nice. Pop goes the weasel, and that's that. Okay, so guys, that is the end of this lecture. So in conclusion, this is important before we finish up this class. In conclusion, use the information in this lesson to assist you with both sections A and B of your assignment. Look at how brand authenticity or lack thereof has caused CSI campaigns by the British royal family to brand to be perceived with skepticism. And look at how the vagaries of loyalty have impacted the ANC brand over the past 20 years. Look at how Mackey's can use its database to foster a sense of brand preference or even brand insistence in the case of the Mechanic brand or of a Mechanic brand. Okay. All right, so guys, our next gripping installment when we come back after the break will be mass media and digital media in the further context of IMM. Okay, which we're going to look at next thing. Okay, so guys, we're going to take another 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back at 25 to 4, and then I'm going to let you guys go at 10 to 5. Okay, so we won't stay working until 10 past 5. It'll only be an hour and 15 minutes if you can stomach it. Okay, and then we will be finishing that so you guys can go home a little bit earlier today and go and get started on your assignment, because I know these long lectures are very exhausting. But thank you for sticking around. I hope that you learned something. Please remember, guys, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me in the class. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. I will come back to you on email. Cool. Thank you so much. I'll see you. I'm going to stop the recording and turn off, and I'll see you guys then. I hope it's still recording. I don't know how these things work, but anyway, stop recording. Okay, cool. Stop.